And welcome back to the Face the State Weekend Edition. I'm Brad Jones with FaceTheState.com, and on the line with me, we had him in our last segment, and we're going to continue our conversation here with Tom Russell. He is an attorney representing Mile High Cab in the Denver metro area. We're talking about taxi regulation, not just in Denver, but also statewide, where there are two different types of regimes, burdens of proof, that new entrants to the taxi cab market might have to jump over. In many parts of the state, you basically, if you have a permit to operate in a county, it's yours, and the government helps protect you from some competition. The rules are a little bit looser, Tom, in Denver, as you described to us here, and there actually has been one other taxi cab company that entered the market, I think, just last year in 2009, Union Taxi, and they benefited from that change in the law that you described. How is your situation similar to theirs, and how is it different?
Well, our situation is very similar to Union Taxi's. Union Taxi started operation in May of 2009. They've done extremely well. One of the great features of their company is that it's a cooperative, so they're able to push the weekly lease rate that each driver pays quite low. They pay $200 or slightly under $200 per week in order to operate their cabs, as opposed to $700 or $900 a week.
And explain what that lease is, because I think a lot of people, when they jump into a taxi, they might think that they're being driven by an employee of the company that they called, but that's not the case.
Yeah, it's not the case at all. The drivers are independent contractors who lease essentially the entitlement to use the dispatch services and sometimes the car from the company. The Yellow and Metro Taxi charge $700 and upwards of $900 a week in order to drive their vehicles.
And how much do you have to drive in order to make that happen? I know some of the reason why the people who are behind Mile High Cab are seeking the creation of a new company is because they've been disappointed with how they've been treated by some of these other companies.
Well, the answer is you have to drive illegally long hours. You're not supposed to drive more than 80 hours in 8 days, but there's simply no way to get enough in the way of fares without driving in excess of that in order to pay off those leases. And you don't get to see your family. You don't get to go with your kids to school. You don't get to do all the things that you'd like to do. You just work round the clock. So with a push down in lease rates, the only way that, well, there are two ways that push down in lease rates could come. One, the legislature gave the PUC the authority to directly regulate lease rates, but the PUC has expressed that they would prefer to allow the lease rates to be pushed down by competition between companies. So that's part of what they emphasized when they let Union Taxi into the market last year, and we think that if they follow their analysis in Union Taxi, that they will reverse the judge's decision and also allow Mile High Cab into the market to compete.
Now, this is sort of a politically themed program here, and we've talked a lot about state law and policy here. Do you think that there may be a need or an increased push now for a further reform in how we regulate transportation in Colorado? I know in many cases, people were surprised to find that it took so long to get Super Shuttle, for instance, in northern Colorado, a market that has been really underserved in ways to get down to Denver International Airport because they don't have regularly scheduled bus service.
I think there's substantial need for overhaul in the law, although I also, my experience is, first, that the changes that have been made in the statutes are not actually being implemented by the PUC, that the legislature said, let's have more competition in the cab market, but that effectively the administrative judge in our case closed the Denver market to more competition. So I think there needs to be a tune-up there. But then I also think that the statutes themselves need to be loosened. And I think we should take a hard look at whether we need this level of regulatory scrutiny in order to enter the taxi market. And also, frankly, I think it's ridiculous that small companies should bear such great costs in order to enter the market. It's against interest, but frankly, lawyers should not get to earn this much money helping a small business start up.
It's the old joke, isn't it, that lawyers sort of win no matter what the outcome is because everything's become so legalistic here these days. Finally here, just when might Denver listeners who are catching us on KNUS, when might they be able to see a Mile High cab on their street if things go well with the PUC? How aggressively a timeline are you working on?
Well, obviously we hope as soon as possible, and we're putting things up at milehighcab.com, putting our legal arguments and keeping up with the news there. The PUC has indicated that they might act on this fall, but it's important to keep in mind that we applied on September 11th, 2008. We had our hearings a full year ago. We were told we'd have a decision by last Thanksgiving, and we waited nearly a year for that. So we honestly don't know how quickly there will be action taken on this.
And all of this, of course, against the backdrop of a recession in Colorado, which makes all of that more interesting to analyze why government might not want to see if this would work. Certainly, people are free to try and succeed or fail on their own merits, and this seems to be a very unique sort of carve-out for that. Tom Russell, we're going to have to leave it at that. And you did give that website. Give it to us one more time if people are interested in what's going on with you and how they might get in touch if they have questions.
Yeah, thanks, Brett. It's milehighcab.com. And on the right-hand side, there is a link to make it easy to contact the PUC and express your opinion.
All right, thank you very much. And, of course, you can read more about the PUC and their rulemaking on energy prices, which affect all of us as well, from Peter Blake this week. He wrote an article Thursday about Ron Binns, the chairman of the PUC, that you can read at facethestate.com. And we're right back after this short break with poll numbers out this week that show Republican Dan Mays and Democrat John Hickenlooper neck and neck for the governor's race, of course, if Tom Tancredo gets out of the race. More on that on the Face the State Weekend Edition.